Well, hey, friends, man, do I have a treat for you guys today here on the Work Life Harmony podcast. Today, I am bringing in the amazing Mike Michalowicz. Now, if you are not familiar with Mike's work, trust me, you're going to be obsessed with everything that he does by the end of this episode. I was first introduced to his work back in 2019 when I read his book called Profit First, and it completely changed how I viewed my relationship with finances as an entrepreneur and how I manage all of my bookkeeping here at the Pink Bee. He really is a recognized author and speaker. Now, if you are not an entrepreneur, here's why you're still going to love today's episode. So, Mike recently, his newest book is called The Money Habit. And this is a book all around home finances. And what's amazing is he's actually applying a lot of the principles that he teaches inside of Profit First. So when I saw this book come out, I knew I needed to read it right away. I devoured it. I did both the audio and reading it. And I'm actually teaching his money habit system to our teenage daughter because I truly believe that this is a perfect money management finance strategy that we should be teaching to our children so that when they enter, the world on their own, they're prepared to be able to understand, manage, and have a great relationship with money. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's episode. I cannot wait for you to meet Mike and definitely highly recommend grabbing The Money Habit. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome back to Work Life Harmony. I have been counting down the days to have this conversation with Mike. It is such an absolute treat and honor to have you here today. I've kind of told everyone about you in the intro, but I would love for you to just give a quick backstory about yourself before we dive into talking about your new book.
It's good to see you again. And I'm Mike, an entrepreneur who's had some early successes and then major failures. And during that process of just failing over and over again, went through a reset of what don't I understand about entrepreneurship, started investigating it and decided that when I find what really does work for me and I think it can work for others, I'm gonna write about it. And so I became a career author maybe 15 to 20 years ago now and just been writing about the entrepreneurial journey, tools I've discovered, things that have helped entrepreneurs. It's been the greatest joy of my life.
Well, I can tell you what, your books have helped me tremendously. I was first introduced to your work back in 2019 when I read Profit First. I was in early stages of building the Pink Bee, and it changed our entire
Oh,
trajectory.
I
So
love
I have
hearing that.
been, and at the time we're recording this, we just finished Q2. So I had my little profit distribution set out for myself.
Yes,
And I think about
yes,
you every quarter and every month as we're
yes.
as we're doing our money transfers. So when I heard that you came out with your new book, The Money Habit, which is really about personal finances, I was intrigued because I'm like, okay, how is this going to translate for that? So, what made you kind of have this aha moment that you could apply some of these same principles that you put into Profit First for people in their personal lives, ordinary people, trying to budget at their kitchen tables?
It's funny from my own experience when I developed Profit First for myself, I also just deployed the same system at home,
Mm.
albeit with modifications. And over time, it actually morphed pretty significantly. But it's like, oh, this is what everyone else will do. I started talking with entrepreneurs and started discovering a storyline that I thought would go away. Is that entrepreneurs that were starting to nail the finances in their business, if they weren't nailing it home, the home leached off the business. And
Oh,
so these businesses were struggling just as deeply. And I'm like, oh, I put a chapter in Prop First about this. Aren't you doing this? Like, no, how do you do it? That was part of it. Another one is I got a call from an entrepreneur who had 900 or has 900 employees and said, there's a bigger problem. It's not me managing my finances alone, it's my employees. And many people don't have authority over their finances, and therefore the finances have authority over them. There was an article in USA Today back in August 2025 that said financial worries become a part-time job for most of America. And the study went on to share that 4 hours a day on average is the time spent worrying about finances for most people. And that means this employer, his name was Tommy, he said, that means my team is not focused on their job. They're worried about how they're going to get food on the table or pay for the mortgage or retire one day. And he goes, then the onus is back on me. Not only are they distracted, appropriately so, but then they ask for raises. They say, hey, can I borrow money? And he goes, I try to accommodate that, but I can only do so much before the business goes under. And if
Right.
I do it, it doesn't fix the problem. More money is not the solution. More control and authority over money is the solution.
So, so true. And I think when a lot of people think about it, we instantly go to, I need a budget, right? I mean, that's kind of what
Yeah,
we're all, I got to get a budget.
sure.
So you really kind of take this from an angle of kind of challenging this idea of traditional budgeting, which is very off-putting for so many
Yeah,
and
yeah,
usually fails after about a month. And
yeah.
so why is it that you feel that this kind of willpower based style of budgeting fails people? And then what does habit-based finances look like instead? Because I kind of feel like that's a subtle difference
There is a
between
subtle,
that.
yeah, there's subtle, but the impact is
Powerful.
significant. Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah. So traditional budgeting builds this kind of retaliatory engine in us. And we
Mhm.
see it in dieting all the time. All the diet plans that are out there are excellent programs, except they require us to modify our behavior on a permanent basis starting immediately. Instantly, you have to become a new person. Well, the old person in us says, I want to eat that ice cream or whatever. And we go into this retaliatory thing. We logically know, don't do that. But the emotional energy says, I deserve this or I'm doing it. And as we're down in the ice cream, we're filling with regret. That's part of the human engine. We have to know that. So budgets, financial budgets are the exact same thing. We logically know if we could just divert ourselves from looking at bank accounts and simply stay in that spreadsheet or whatever the app du jour is and stick with that, we'll do it. But what do? We retaliate. That's the old us comes back and says, why log into bank accounts? That's my habit. There's money there and I want to do X. I'm spending it. It's called the primacy effect too, is another angle, which means we put the most significance in our immediate desires and the least significance in our long-time desires. So if I want to go out to dinner tonight, I'm going to put more energy into that than worrying about paying the mortgage at the end of the month. And I'm going to put more energy into that than worrying about retirement, even though I know retirement is something I really should prepare for. So what we do instead of trying to willpower our way to success is we channel our existing behavior. And the natural existing behavior for most people is we log into our bank account on a regular basis. I do it multiple times a day. I already did this morning. Most people do it at least once a week. But when you log in, realizing that we're going to look at the money and we're going to say, what do I need right now? Is there enough money to cover that need now? So we're going to just do a simple modification. We are guaranteed to go to the bank account. That's our natural old behavior. So keep doing that. But we're going to set up multiple accounts at the bank so that the money is pre-allocated to its intended use. Does it stop us cold turkey from behaving poorly? No.
It's
But
not,
what it
yeah.
does is it brings a subconscious behavior to conscious awareness. So for example, if I want to go out to dinner tonight and just I want to live high in the hog because I deserve it. I go into my account and there's $50 for that. That at least in New Jersey, that's far from high in the hog. But there's money in my mortgage account. I can take money from my mortgage account, put it in there, and I can go out and live high in the hog today. But when I can't pay my mortgage at the end of the month, I can no longer subconsciously deny that and say, I don't know, I just never have enough money. I have to say, I chose to steal from myself. And that
Yeah.
conscious awareness starts bringing in more control. So the quick summary lessons is channel your existing behaviors. If you log into bank accounts, it needs to be inserted there because it'll always intercept us. Secondly, bring subconscious bad behavior to conscious awareness and it'll start morphing how you behave.
Oh, that's so powerful. Obviously, we can't digest the entire book here on a short podcast episode.
We can try. Yeah.
Everybody needs to go get The Money Habit. I've been going through it with my daughter who's about to turn 16 because she's very interested in this. We're going to be setting this all up for her when she heads
Cool.
off to college. So one of the things that really parallels well, especially for our listeners, for anyone that follows the top program here with the way we do weekly planning, the way you are allocating and planning and thinking about money with the different accounts is a really great parallel to how we talk about in our community the different categories of where our time goes and how we have
Yes.
different colors for those and how they show up on our calendar differently. So could you give us kind of, I don't know, like the 30,000-foot view of what the heart of this system, the money habit system, looks like in terms of what those account structures are of how our money is being put into different bank accounts?
Yeah, very similar to scheduling on a calendar a time and using time
Mhm.
blocks. I remember once a friend of mine says, "How important is your family?" I said, "They're the number one most important element of my life. They're my family." And he grabs my phone and says, "No, they're not." And he starts scrolling through the
Yeah,
calendar,
they're
and it
not
was
on there.
shocking. It was
Yeah.
shocking. Yeah, he said they're not. And so I realized the same thing with money is when we log into our bank account, we can say we're using money a certain way, but if we can't see it visually and it's just one block of money, we don't have that clarity. So color coding is such a brilliant idea. I'm going to deploy that now. It is the same thing we need to do. We have 6 core accounts. The first account is income, and what we're gonna do is it's your checking account, and all your deposits will go in there like you have, but we need to separate out where you're spending money. The reason behind this is when you log into your bank account, you have absolute clarity of how much money is coming in. Maybe you receive pay every week or every 2 weeks. On that day, you'll take notice and you'll see exactly what it is. But there's sometimes other sources of income, interest is earned, you get gifted money. So you'll see the fluctuations. If all the money's coming in and out of one account, it's very hard for us to judge and we get confused.
Yeah.
There's an income account. The next account, these are all spending accounts now. One's called a needs account. This is for the essentials of living. We need food, water, shelter. The next account is called wants. And wants are the the mini luxuries of life. We want to separate that out. So to give context, I need food, I need groceries. I want to eat out. So
Right.
those are definitely different things. And if you're confused if something's a need or a want, it's usually the higher level. So if you're like, I need to eat out. No, you
You
want
re
to eat out. You need food. So we wanted to start bifurcating that. And we're going to allocate money on a percentage basis of your income to these different accounts. So essentials, mini luxuries, and that's very important. In diets, successful diets do have cheat days because they know the old us, the one that just has that give me now, let me treat myself, needs that. So we need to have wants, ironically. We need to have a self-expression.
Yeah.
Then we have dreams. Dreams are the bigger goals. You know, I want to have groceries. I need food. I want to eat out. I dream of having a personal chef and preparing foods for,
Oh
meals
my
for
god,
me.
that'd be my dream come true.
Right? Isn't that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a dream come true. So those are the different levels. Those are the bigger luxuries. And for some people, the dream is buying a second home. For some, it's buying a first home, whatever. But it's all very personal, and you put in your categories. I also in the book noticed that the average income for a U.S. citizen is $50,000 a year. So anyone listening in, if you're making more than that, you are far beyond average. If you're making less than that, welcome to the most of us. But if you earn 50,000 in many parts of the country, it is a little the hand to mouth is a little extreme, but it's kind of getting by. We're going to orient a lot more toward the essentials needs. But if you're earning a huge salary, I think less than 1% of the population is over 200,000. If you earn over 200,000, we can orient more money toward wants and dreams, the context. But everybody, regardless of your income, the next account is called fix or future. If you have past debt, particularly unsecured debt, credit cards, stuff like that, we're going to fix and reduce that and eradicate that. It is so expensive and costly financially, but
Yeah.
also emotionally. Once we've taken care of your debt, we'll change this to future. Future is preparation, kind of like a dream, but usually for retirement or independence where you don't have to worry about money at all and money's caring for you. The last account is to address the most predicted bill in the world. It's the unpredicted bill. Something's going to happen that you didn't anticipate. A medical concern, the roof is leaking, something will happen. We call this the emergency account. In summary, this is the envelope system, but it's deployed in just our modern approach of using bank accounts. One little final thought. I was doing a keynote on this. It was like a large audience, like 1,000 people in the room. I said, we just did a quick survey. I said, what is the number one money app in the world? And people are like, oh, it's Rocket Money, it's QuickBooks, it's personal, it's a spreadsheet. None of that. The number one app is your own bank.
Your
Whatever
bank.
bank you
Yeah.
work with, that has the most use. So we have to do it there.
Fascinating. Yeah. Okay. So okay, I'm going to have all these accounts set up just as when I go through, here's your 10-step weekly planning process and people start freaking out, right? I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
You do this in 15 minutes a week. It sounds a lot, but it's not. What does this is this adding hours of time into your life every week if you are allocating monies into different accounts?
It absolutely doesn't, but it's daunting in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I have to go to bank and set up these accounts. You can probably do it. Actually, you can surely do it online
Yeah.
nowadays. It actually alleviates a lot of time. The most time is spent in the worry and the wonder. Like, Do I have enough money to do this? So forth. Once you start seeing these bins, you have absolute clarity. Now, this is something I was raised on. I didn't even really appreciate it until in retrospect. But my mother, she's of German descent. She set these envelopes, and it was all in German, but it would say like one was for the mortgage for the house that my parents contributed to. One was to give back to the church and community. One was for food. Well, I remember when she go food shopping, she just grab the food envelope and go. What was interesting is she always had enough money, but that shouldn't be confused with the same amount of money. My mother worked part-time. If she worked overtime, there was more money to distribute to food. If she was ill or something, there was less money. So she always just worked with the envelope. That's the key. And the little joke I like to make is for Germans, if there wasn't much money in there was a lot of sauerkraut in our house. But if there was a lot of money, it was liverwurst, which the translation of liverwurst to English is disgusting. It's an absolute disgusting food. Liver sausage.
Well, my maiden name is Schisler, so I come from a
Oh, there
German
you go.
descent as
Yeah.
well. Yes, yes.
Oh, guten
Thankfully,
Tag.
we were not stuck with eating the liverwurst. So how often, knowing we have all this money coming into our set income account, and then eventually we're distributing it, and one of the tools that's in the Money Habit book that's really important for listeners to understand is I love where you have the tables that kind of give
Yeah.
some guidelines around, hey, based on your current income, here might be some suggested percentage
Yes.
allocations of what goes. So you guys, for those of you listening, you don't have to figure that out. Mike kind of hands you a great starting point no matter where you are financially. But how often are you going in? And is this a daily thing where you're moving money into these accounts? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? How much time are you in there moving money around?
Yeah, money gets moved typically in sequence with when you receive money. So most people get paid bi-weekly every 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we would do it on that day. That's when we move money. When we look at money, it's usually multiple times a day for many people. But when the deposit comes in, that's the ideal day to do the allocations. So if you get paid weekly and it happens to be on a Friday, give it a nice name like Financial Friday, or maybe it's Money Monday or Wealthy Wednesday, whatever the day is. But we want to allocate in sequence with deposits. The interesting thing about those charts you referred to, I wrote that book right at the edge of AI. So AI was out, but it wasn't there yet.
Mhm.
And so all those calculations, that's all manual, no
I
AI
bet you're kicking
used.
yourself. You're like, man,
I
if I'd
know.
waited this much longer.
I just needed 6 months. I subsequently AI tested it, and thank God it's accurate and appropriate. So what we did is we surveyed different audiences, and there's two variables that are important. One is income. We talked about that. I call
Right.
it tiers. Are you below 50,000 annually as an income earner, over 50,000, and then we have increments of 50 to 100, 100 to 2, so forth, up to an earner over $1 million. The second thing, though, I think is as significant is the seasonality of money. And the reason I use this term seasonality is because that's a temporary state.
Yeah.
And what I found was so fascinating, Megan, in interviewing people, they'd often say, I'm in debt or I have debt, which were permanent states. If I am in debt, that's parts of my identity. And what I found is when people say I am in debt, they are more likely to contain or sustain their debt. It's a subconscious behavior. We have to comply
Interesting.
with how we identify. So I said, okay, we need to change this to a positive term. So instead of debt, let's call it recovery, financial recovery. The second thing is we got to give it a short window. So that's why I use seasonality, because seasons come and go. So in those charts, you'll see the income tiers, but you'll also see a recover season. And if you have debt, particularly in the unsecured debt, we may be in the recover season. And how we're going to allocate money would be different than if we're in the fund season, which is preparing for the future, which is different than the activate season, which is a time where we're intentionally spending down money that we've saved. Perhaps the kids are flying the coop. You have a 16-year-old. This is our last trip to Disney as a
Yeah.
family. We're blowing the budget this year. And that's good. Some people activate in their retirement, so we can pick different times. And the last one is the balance season. This is where we strike the delicate chord between living in the moment, activating, but also preparing for the future.
Oh, I love that. And for people that maybe don't have control over their budget, I think they're hearing, okay, this sounds like something I could put in place. But I also
Yeah.
want for listeners, my husband and I have worked hard to get on top of our finances. And I've always felt like we do a good job. We're kind of in that balance season. We've been there for a while. But our solution was kind of taking all of those expense categories. We had our needs clearly working. But then
Yeah.
all of those other ones, the vacation budget, the emergency fund, the extras, the wants, they were all lumped up into one separate account.
Yeah.
And so as I shared this book with him, I'm like, I really think I'd like us to kind of take that and start moving it out. And he's like, it sounds like a lot of accounts. I'm like, let's go for it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it was just about 6 weeks ago that we added 3 more accounts
Oh, wow. Good.
into our
Well
world
done.
and started separating out for us definitely the emergency versus the vacation versus the
Yeah.
wants. And even that one small shift has been so freeing because we just went through this horrific leaky shower that turned into a,
So new
definite
bathroom,
definite
right?
emergency fund situation here, and if we had had all of it lumped together, there would have been that underlying, "Well, are we pulling from vacation fund to do from this? Are we
Yes.
not?" And so now with that clarity, it allowed us to see, "Hey, you know what? Here's our budget for fixing this bathroom. If we
Yeah.
go above that, if we add in bells and whistles while we're in here, we're gonna have to pull from a want or a vacation fund."
Nailed it.
And so that's why I encourage people, even if you're kind of like, hey, we're not, maybe we don't carry a lot of debt, we feel like we're on top of our finances. I would still encourage people to truly set up those different accounts. To your point, we did it online in a matter of minutes. It was
Yeah.
super easy to do. And it's just an online transfer for us. It's once a month because we have weird out of sync
Yeah.
pay. So we just kind of do it once a month. But the clarity and visibility into that was a very different conversation than what we would have had kinda navigating that. So,
I love it. And your
yeah.
choice of words is perfect. Clarity. I call
Yes.
them clarity accounts. And so we do the same. And so what I ask anyone is, and you can do this to get started with the money habit from day one, as opposed to setting up 6 accounts. If that overwhelms you, you can do this. Or if you have the 6 accounts and want more clarity, you can do this. I tell people, I say, what's the biggest worry or wonder you have right now financially? And for someone new to this system or any system, could say, well, I worry if I can put groceries on the table. And unfortunately, for a lot of Americans, that is a challenge. Or I worry about if I can cover the mortgage. A common one to hear is I worry if I have enough funds to retire. So I say, okay, just pick whatever weighs on your mind the most. We're going to only set up one account called, we'll say groceries, or we'll say retirement, whatever that worry or wonder is. Then we're going to allocate the necessary money to ensure that is fully addressed from our income. Now, the magic in the system is not that, well, there's 2 parts. One is the stress is reduced because now I know I have enough money for groceries. I'm assuring that reduces stress, but that's not the magic. The magic is in the remainder. Like, oh my gosh, I have less available for everything else. It starts making you measure everything else. So the fact
Yeah.
that you and your husband start saving for an emergency for the, you didn't know it was going to be the shower, but it's the shower. You start saving for this. What you said is exactly how it plays out. We've confidence that, hey, we've addressed for this. The pain of paying that bill gets reduced because
Yeah.
it's already been addressed proactively. So that actually feels better. But the second thing is we have a decision now. We can steal from our vacation and not go on vacation and upgrade the entire bathroom here, or we're going to stick with this plan. And so that starts giving us this measured understanding of our holistic finances.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get to, I don't know, I just feel like it's better partnership in
Oh, and that's
conversations,
even the best part.
and
Yeah.
that to me, like, I felt like that was this biggest win of now we're having interesting conversations around our, retirement's not that far off. Like, what is that gonna look like? How do we wanna prioritize? Do we wanna
Correct.
shift those percentages a little bit? And so I feel like it has reduced a lot of emotion having conversations about money with your partner. So, and it's very data driven, factual conversations, which is so much easier to have than the very emotional ones. So
Oh,
I feel like this book should just be required for,
that's
every person as they are entering, quote, their real world. And that's why I know
yeah,
we
yeah,
we
yeah.
plan on kind of doing a minier version of this for our daughter. She heads off to college to get her comfortable with it so that then she'll be able to get the full account system, when she's off and on her own. And I mean, she's embracing it wholeheartedly. I think it gives a very pragmatic, again, non-emotional way to really help
Yes.
understand finances. So for everyone listening, truly you need to go grab The Money Habit. If you do what I did, which is I do a lot of Audible books, I'm telling you, you're just going to want the actual books. I say, like, sure, get the Audible, but then you're going to want the book to have the charts and the references and all of that. We've got it all earmarked. We've got the link to the book in the show notes. I was going to ask you, but I think you already kind of answered it on if you had to pick one thing for our listeners to do if they felt like the whole thing was too much. But I feel like you gave a great answer to that already, was find the one pain point.
Yeah, exactly. Find the one pain point because there's another pain point that I didn't discuss, and it can be a partner. In many cases, there's one person that's the primary financial manager at the house.
Mhm.
And at least at our household, it's me. And I became a parent-child relationship. My wife started asking permission to do things. And either I'd scold her, not directly, but subconsciously, or I would give her the lollipop and say, you can do whatever you want. Once we brought the system about, it brought about this equality. And now it's us versus the system. The data speaks. Now we've teamed up. It's been extraordinary.
Yeah.
But there'll be resistance. If you decide, we got to start managing our money better, it's going to be scary, not just for you, but also if you have a partner. So what I found is setting up one account is the best way to get started. Maybe even do it surreptitiously if you have to just do it on your own. But what's the biggest worry or wonder you have? And I can't remember how we started off the system anymore. But I do know this. When we bought our current home, I talked to the owner. I said, when was the roof replaced? They said, well, we only owned the house for 1 year. They were moving on for a sabbatical. So we don't know how old the roof is. So I said, okay, this roof is going to go one day,
Yeah.
and we better start saving for it. And so what we did is, there's this little math you can do. A house roof lasts typically 20 years. When you don't know where you are, the best bet is to say you're halfway through. So we said within 10 years, this roof is surely going to most likely have to be replaced, at least over 50% odds. So we started saving accordingly, and we had this roof account. And sure enough, the roof started leaking last year. And sure enough, we have enough money secured. So we started off, or at least one of the initial accounts was this roof account. It is, replacing a roof is rich. It is expensive.
Yes. And loud.
It can, oh gosh. And it can throw you off guard for all of this investment. But we're sitting there with a leaky roof saying, my gosh, we have it covered. That gave my wife and I so much confidence in the system. Now it's almost embarrassing. We have over 20 accounts, always different little nuanced things, to the point where I went a little too obsessive, and now we're reducing it maybe to 18 or so. But it's very clear. It's very clear for us on what money's available for what purpose at any given time.
Oh, and it puts both of you with that access. You're not having to ask each other, to your point, and
Correct.
everybody knows where everybody stands. Now, for those listening who are business owners, you've likely encountered Mike's work through Profit First, Clockwork, any of the other books I've been sharing over the last several years. But I think this book now, what I love is this just makes accessibility to absolutely everyone. For those interested in learning more about all of your books, everything you've got out there, where's the best place for people to connect with you today?
My grade school nickname, because it rhymed, was Mike Motorbike. So I bought the domain. So MikeMotorbike.com. All the books are there, free chapter downloads, everything you could want.
I love that you did that because, spelling out Michalowicz is not always probably the
impossible.
easiest
Yeah.
for everybody to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot thank you enough for spending your time here today. And truly, folks, go out and get The Money Habit. I think it is a must read for all households.